The following podcast contains opinions which are intangible and pose no threat to your safety. It also contains spoilers, which are very real and may harm your viewing experience. You've been warned.
Actually getting better. I think you're getting it.
That's good, because apparently it was terrible last week.
Oh, last week was awful, but that's cool.
Well,
That's absolutely fine.
I was scotch drunk last week.
Scotch drunk here. Are you
Not
beer drunk this time?
Yeah. But
What beer?
Wango by Atwater.
Wango? I don't think I've ever tried a Wango.
It's a mango wheat beer, and it is amazing.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about super fruity beers.
It's not like, super fruity. It's like respectful about it.
Respectful. Okay, because
Yeah,
I do like
tasteful.
Rubaeus. Rubaeus is really good.
Rubaeus is
But
great.
I think that's kind of the sort of the limitation of how fruity I can have my beer.
Sure.
I do want to bring up one thing real quick before we really get into this, and that is, so tonight my roommate had me try a peanut butter hot dog. Yeah, so there's been this weird fad in the last couple years, I feel like, of putting peanut butter on meat.
Like having the excuse to put the word umami in polite conversation.
I guess. I have no idea. But so have you ever been to the Basement Burger Bar?
No.
Okay, that's what I know. It's one of their big deals is that they have like a bison burger that has what do you call it? Has peanut butter on it. Okay. And stuff like that. And I'm sure they've got it at like Bagger Dave's or other places, but it's a thing I've noticed. My little brother seems to really dig it. And my roommate was like, I heard putting it on hot dog, crunchy peanut butter on hot dogs is a good thing. And he was like,
crunchy is a game changer.
Creamy
hot dog peanut butter I'm not so on board with, but when you flip that crunchy switch, you got yourself a cam on your side.
Well, that was the thing, right? Like I not to give a spoiler warning, but I feel like the crunchiness is sort of what changed the game. Like I feel like it did. Yeah. Because I really wasn't sure. I'm always down to try whatever. I've had a Twinkie Wiener sandwich before. Like it.
Thank you, Weird Al.
Yeah, thank you, Weird Al. I'm all down for trying whatever, anything that's new, and usually like as long as I can't like fathom what it would taste like, and this putting peanut butter with meat is something that just sort of like I couldn't think of it.
Yeah, there's nothing intuitive about it.
Yeah, so he made them today, and we tried one. I was honestly surprised. At first, I was like, huh, and then I was like, huh, and then I was like, yeah, this is pretty good actually. Like, but I feel like if it wasn't for, because we had they were kosher hot dogs, so they already had a bit of like a crunch, you know.
Yeah,
with the casing. Mm-hmm. And then on top of that, with the crunchy peanut butter, it was actually really good.
So this is homemade?
Oh, well, I mean, homemade as in buying hot dogs and then making hot dogs and then putting peanut butter on it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, making a painting at home is buying paint and buying something to put the paint
right,
on.
Yeah, no, yeah. I don't know, like, do they sell peanut butter hot dogs? Is that a thing? I haven't seen it.
No, I thought, well, you started by saying like the basement bar, so I thought maybe you went there and got one. That's all.
Oh, no. We decided we would try this out here for because we were brave explorers and wanted to expand our culinary palates, if you will.
And you managed to dodge the dangerous jaguars of indigestion and such.
Yeah, well, we'll see. This was like about 30 minutes ago, so we'll find out.
A risky prospect. All right, so as we discussed before, I'd like to jump straight into this one. I got a lot to cover, and I I just love what we're talking about today, and we'll probably go off on several tangents. And so,
it will be tangent heavy.
Yes, I'd like to afford ourselves the freedom to do so as much as possible. So, hey everyone, I'm Cam, and this is Bam, and this is Bits, Chips, and Flip Scripts. And this is the podcast where we take a look at elements of gameplay and narrative in video games. We take a thing or two and change them, and then we sort of speculate on how it would affect the rest of the game.
AKA, this is the butterfly effect in gaming.
Yes. I think at some point we can stop saying that, but 3 episodes in, we probably still need to.
I think we should always tag this is butterfly effect in gaming. It just sounds good.
No, we can make it sound a little catchier, right? I mean, it's a little dry right now.
Okay, Mr. Marketing, go ahead, give me a better tagline. Bring it up.
Well, you put me on the spot, and that's downright Team Rocket-esque. Yes.
All right, Cam, hit it up. What are we talking about?
We're talking about the biggest media franchise ever to grace this 20th century and beyond Earth, Pokemon. It is
the most expensive franchise to date.
I believe it's $14 billion ahead of second place, which is Star Wars.
That's ridiculous. I can't believe it though. It's kind of amazing.
Oh yeah, I got swept up big time, man.
Oh yeah, me too.
I remember giving a speech in 5th grade. We had to introduce ourselves, and my whole slogan for myself or whatever, like my elevator pitch was like, I am obsessed with Pokemon. I am obsessed with Pokemon. I am obsessed with Pokemon. Seriously, like it wasn't that literally, but that phrase left my mouth at some point in the introduction speech. I was in all ways a Pokemaniac for what seems like about 10 years of my, at that point, 10-year long life. But realistically, was about, it was probably about 4 years where I was really like, I had the bug real bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, we played, we're focusing on Pokemon as a whole, but we chose to focus more narrowly on the 2nd gen. Do you want to talk about why we did that?
It's just 2nd gen. There's a lot of reasons. A lot of people, especially of our age, definitely hold Gold and Silver to be like sort of the highlight of the Pokemon franchise.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Personally, Gen 2. I get it. I totally understand, because I was up until Gen 7, I believe, whenever X and Y came out. Because playing X and Y, to me, those were game changers. They completely just sort of it was so refreshing, and they really brought the franchise alive to me again. You know what I mean? Like,
sure. After
having died out for me for a long time, I feel like X and Y are definitely where Pokemon became Pokemon again, and it literally sucked me back in. So like,
I need that in my life. Like,
yeah, no,
it's been gone for so long for me, and I mean, this was great because and I'll let you finish your point. Sorry, but it's like, just
no, you're good.
To be so hook, line, and sinker into something back when I was like 10 years old, and like now to go back and play it, it's like I'm right back there sitting on my dad's couch, summer break, you get your shirt out of the freezer. And
oh yeah,
you just sit there and you play indoors because you're a nerdy kid.
Yeah, no, it's I don't have the advantage of being nostalgic. Nostalgic isn't something that my mind processes very well, unfortunately. So I never really get those like rose-colored glasses that I feel like makes life so much more enjoyable.
Man, so like I uniquely
not to be depressing or anything,
you're
but like
perfect host to do the show with me, because I last week, of course, or not last week, but last episode, Banjo-Kazooie was very nostalgic for me. This is extremely nostalgic for me, so I'm definitely looking forward to what you can do to sort of temper that.
That's the thing though. Like, critically speaking though, this is a fantastic franchise. Not to basically suck its own dick, but like it's good. I really enjoy it, and I've always enjoyed it. It's just something where like it's hard for me to sort of sit and be like, oh yeah, no, these ones were the best because those were the ones I played as a kid. Like, no, I will objectively say I think X and Y is probably the best Pokemon generation / games that have ever come out for this franchise. I think it's, we were talking about it earlier, where like a lot of people think Gold and Silver is so good is because it's basically just the first games but polished. You know what I mean? Like they took all those rough edges and they smoothed them out, and they didn't add too much, but they just added enough to make the game better, right? They took what we loved and then they only added what was necessary. Whereas I feel like later games just kept adding, and what they added was unnecessary or sort of, I'm not going to say hurt the franchise because people still love it, but I mean, they weren't obviously held up to the same regard, so to speak. And I get that, because you're trying to add so much more sort of to quote unquote to refresh the franchise. But honestly, to me, it just made it more convoluted. You know what I mean?
They're trying to reinvigorate it, but really just like
right.
Just bloat in a lot of ways.
Yeah, but something about X and Y where it had just enough. I feel like it didn't have too much, but it had just enough. And also like the take with it to being 3D, like it was great. It was honestly fantastic. And I don't know, honestly, because I haven't played the other ones in a long time. The other ones being Ruby, Sapphire, and what is it, Diamond and Pearl?
And then you're also missing Black and White in your.
I'm not missing that one. I played that one.
Oh, okay.
And it was just.
I wouldn't say I'm just missing work, Bob.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Just
so
for
just
some reason, it's
here.
super mediocre to me. Black and White were.
No, okay. So I mean, it's for me, it's like the perfect storm, right? I mean, like I definitely remember playing first gen, and I remember it fondly enough, but certainly not with the same degree of finesse that I remember my time as a young boy of 10 with with Gen 2. And also, I mean, this is another thing where like it actually acts against nostalgia. Like I went back, this is probably like 4 or 5 years ago, but I played Pokemon Red, and I only made it to probably Lieutenant Surge, but it just doesn't age well. Like you really have to have a heavy spoonful of nostalgia to like kind of sit through some of the rougher edges on that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
Also, it's kind of the burden of knowledge. I've watched a lot of videos, especially prepping for this episode, just on Pokemon in general. I mean, of course, trying to focus on Gen 2, but also trying to keep other gens in mind just so that we can have some broader topics.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And just hearing about all the things that you didn't notice, because when Gen 1 came out in the States, I was like 7 or 8, and I was consequently had no critical eye for anything. So I was really put up with a lot. But like looking back and seeing like, oh, psychic types were OP, oh, ghost types were garbage, and they were supposed to be psychic types counter.
Yeah.
Crits didn't work correctly. Like if you used Fury Attack and one was going to crit, they were all going to crit. And if that's a 5-hit move and you get hit by it, your enemy's B-drill and KOs your Pokemon due to stupid RNG BS. Just stuff like that. Just all
it was rough around the edges, right?
All this, and I mean, they probably didn't have a great QA team. They didn't have a lot of people making this game, so you're willing to let it pass. But on the other hand, like I'm not going to willingly subject myself to sit through that crap.
Right? No, that's the thing too, right? Like the first of anything is always going to be a little rough, right?
Yeah.
Like they probably didn't really understand like how much something like this had to be balanced, right?
Mm-hmm.
Among other things, like they needed another game to sort of work out this stuff. They needed to see what the first game was like to set up that foundation so they could then build upon it. And that's what they did with Gold and Silver.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And so it's twofold, right? They polished up so many things that were lacking. And then I think just, and I am a little biased, I'll say that right up front. But I just think that the features that they did add, that they used to build upon that first gen, were such groundbreaking and like innovative features.
I mean, these games are what people think of when they think of Pokemon. It's kind of like how when people think of Final Fantasy, a lot of them think of like Final Fantasy 7 now, right? Yeah. Like that's sort of the standard.
If you're a hipster like I am,
sure, but I mean, like no one thinks about the first game where it's literally just a grind fest, where it's very comparable to say Dragon Warrior, right? Like no one compares it to that. Where like Pokemon before this, like it was a completely different beast, and then this comes around and it brings in the day and night cycle, it brings in breeding, it brings in shiny Pokemon, it does all of these perfect things where no longer are you just trying to be the best that no one ever was. Like now on top of it, you are
trying to do that.
Well, yeah, you are trying to do that, but more importantly, there's other things you can do to sort of bite your time. If you wanted to, you could be a breeder. You could just be like, you know what? Collecting all 8 badges is fine and stuff, and I'm going to do it just so I can get the cooler Pokemon. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, I'm just focusing on breeding and getting shinies and doing whatever I can. Like, which they added other stuff to that too, to the later game's credits. They also added things like beauty contests and other stuff like that. Which, right. They weren't for me. And like I said, like they kept adding stuff to the point where it was kind of convoluted. But then I feel like they sort of learned to condense it, but still keep it around. And I feel like that's very important to the Pokemon franchise, though. I think what makes it have the lasstability that it does, aside from the fact that there's just constantly new Pokemon that people want to catch, is on top of it, there's different things you can do. You don't have to worry about being a master. Like, yeah, that's how you quote unquote beat the game, but at the end of the day, if you just want to make your Pokemon, get the prettiest, cutest Pokemon, and then have that be your end goal, that's what you can do. It's very cool. So being Nintendo, they made a game that, or they tried to branch out and make a game for everybody, because that's what Nintendo does. Sometimes to the benefit, sometimes not so much. But I mean, I feel like that's a part of why Pokemon has this, why it's lasted as long as it has. You know, like it has something for everybody, which is super cool.
Yeah, I mean, hell, I remember playing Pokemon Puzzle League. Do you ever play that one?
No, I have not.
It's I think Panel de Pon or something, right? That was like the original Japanese game, and then they just like slapped a coat of Pokemon paint on it.
Oh, okay.
Lots of fun. Not a game I would ever have played if it didn't have Pokemon branding.
You know? Sure.
So, but it was a Pokemon game for puzzle enthusiasts, right? I mean, that's
right.
Sort of like the fringe ideal of what you're talking about, basically.
Or like, like our Pokemon Pinball. That was I played the crap out of Pokemon Pinball. And dude, who asked for that? Did anybody? I didn't. I don't think anyone asked for that, but we got it, and it was a super fun game. Like, it's just the concept of catching all these cute and adorable creatures was just great. But you know what? This podcast isn't a retrospective. This podcast isn't some kind of review podcast. What do we do here? It's all about the butterfly effect. So,
man, just to give a dime for every time we talked about what kind of podcast this isn't. So, the narrative of Gold and Silver specifically is we start as Ethan, correct? I believe is his name. It's Ethan in Gold and Silver, and then in a groundbreaking turn for the series in Crystal version, which is the extended third version, of course, which started with Yellow, you can be Chris, which is the female protagonist.
Right. So, and then you're about 10 years old or so, and after you thwart some ruffian kid who you get to name, but usually it goes by the name of Silver. You thwart him from trying to steal from his professor, and in doing so, the professor gives you a starter Pokemon, and you're told to go out and quest for badges. School be damned. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're 10 or 9, but
I had to be a bit of a pedant here. Pedant. I don't know how that word's pronounced. I've only seen it spelled out. I hate to be pedantic. Silver successfully steals from the professor, and that's how he gets his starter Pokemon.
Right, but I mean, you don't. You get your starter Pokemon. He lets you keep your a Pokemon, doesn't he? Doesn't Professor Elm be like, yeah, here, you can keep this because you got back? Because Silver
that's like
ends up
the
going
first
to
thing
jail,
he does.
right?
He goes, go to Cherry Grove City.
You're right.
Here's a Pokemon, or you gon' die.
Right, because you have to take.
Gonna peck your eyes out.
That's right, because you have to take the egg to Mr. Pokemon or whatever.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, but regardless, so you have your Pokemon, and you're told to go out and quest for badges. So through defeating gym leaders and thwarting the villainous Team Rocket, and crushing your own rival, basically, Ethan travels across all of the land of Johto and later Kanto to become the very best, like no one ever was, and be a Pokemon master. That's the whole goal of the game. Very neat little plot, tightly wrapped up, a little package there. Not too much to have to worry about. However,
yeah, so instead of a child of 10 or 11 or whatever the age is, we thought it would be more interesting if the protagonist was instead a surly teenager. We chose to focus on like around 16, kind of your prototypical angsty teenager.
Yeah, I was thinking for our world, probably just about to get out of high school, right?
Sure.
Like a senior age,
just over
16,
everything.
17. Yeah, over everything. Yeah, surly being the operative word here.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
Absolutely.
All right, and without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in, shall we? Do you want to start with this one, or?
Yeah. So I noticed that the literal first thing that happens in this game is that you get your Pokegear. Did you have any notes on that?
No, actually, I didn't. My first thing was sort of a little bit later. with your first interaction with silver.
Gotcha. So just to riff on this a little bit, the first thing that happens is you go downstairs and your mom's like, oh, your Poke Gear was in the shop for repair. Like, here it is. And if I can editorialize a little bit, I mean, first of all, my thought was like, your face as a teenager would be just buried in this thing, right? And then I sort of took a step back and I was like, well, you know, I mean, this game was made in, I think, 2000 or 1999, right? Like,
right.
Smartphones didn't exist. I mean, Palm Pilots, you could like write notes on them and that's it. Like, there was no that time analogy for
everyone
the
had a
smartphone.
beeper.
Yeah. So, you know, I think a lot of people would probably say like, well, no, your face wouldn't be buried in it. You'd just be on the phone all the time. But to get a little philosophical, you know, I think video games are basically abstractions on, you know, real life or, you know, bigger concepts, right? Like, we don't all look like pixel people and live in towns with 3 houses. So your mind is sort of apt to fill in the gaps. And so I think if we look at the Poke Gear as an abstraction for just like whatever device the teens of the day like cared about, right? And we look at it through a modern lens, like it could very easily be something like a smartphone. And I'm going to insist that it is because it's funnier. I think that your character therefore would bump into stuff a lot more.
Oh no. Just completely oblivious to the outside world around him and
Sure.
just walking forward with a nose buried into his device.
Yeah, I mean, like, lack of peripherals plus terrible coordination equals, well, me, first of all, when I was 16, but definitely someone who collides with the terrain quite frequently.
Yeah, he's still getting those what do you call that?
Like
growth spurts and yep, got those puberty legs, clumsy as fuck.
Yes, the second worst type of legs behind C.
Yes. I don't know. I feel like sea legs or something where like you may or may not have, like, everyone gets puberty legs. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's
you can't
true. Not having
you have an
sea legs
awkward
is a
you have an
bad
awkward
thing.
run. Maybe you're like pigeon-toed. Who knows?
Okay, dude. You don't need to rag on me more than I already have.
Anyway, so aside from ripping on Cam, my big thing is I was wondering, like, so obviously, like part of one of our first ideas into this was the fact that you wouldn't wake up nearly as early or
Yeah.
be nearly as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
No, I
as
don't
this kid
think
is.
you'd like. I don't think the game would like keeping in. Hold on, I got to look at my notes here because I was pretty proud of what I wrote here.
Sure.
So it was to keep with staying true to the fantasy of being a teenager. Parentheses, yuck. I don't think the game would let you play in the morning cycle, just to really maintain that like suspension of disbelief, right?
Yeah.
So, I looked up which Pokemon only come out in the morning. Lediba, Phanpy in Silver version, and Teddiursa in Gold version. And then I think Butterfree in the wild, but that doesn't really count because you can find Caterpie other times of the day.
Yeah.
Those would have near legendary status. The game would not be able to be played during the morning because teens never get up before noon, let alone 10, which is when the morning cycle changes to the day cycle. And again, to just sort of like insert myself into that, that was the thought that started this show for me. That was sort of like the seed that blossomed into Bits, Chips, and Flip Scripts. And now that I've played this game a little bit, I'm kind of a hypocrite because, like, you know who loves sleeping in late on the weekends? This guy. I put 14 hours into this game over a week. You know?
Jeez, yeah.
Yeah. I was a little sad I didn't get further. I beat 5 gyms, I think.
Oh my god, I got to 3 before I was like, okay, I get it. Like, I remember this.
So, but yeah, I never saw the morning cycle either.
That's funny. That's so funny. Oh my gosh. I did, but that's only because I'm a person who doesn't sleep.
Yeah, so you
all.
cut it at the front end rather than the tail end.
Yeah, exactly. So like when it's 5 a.m. and I'm still on it, it's like, oh, because I don't go to bed till like 7 a.m.
Right.
So like, you can still catch it. And that's still a very real thing with like modern Pokemon games too. I have the worst time catching like for example, I think in X and Y, like you have the best chances to catch, or maybe it was Sun and Moon, but yeah, definitely Sun and Moon, because there are certain Pokemon you can only catch during the the daytime, and I would always miss them because I'd be going to bed at 7, and then I'd wake up at like probably
3.
about 12, go to work, and then come back home, and so like I would be able to play it until like it was already nighttime, which nighttime in those games is like 4 p.m. for some reason.
I think it was 6, but still like obnoxiously early, especially in the summer when it's light out till 10.
Exactly.
I mean, at least
right?
as far
like,
north as we are. Yeah, so definitely again, this one's it's pretty plot light. So I had a lot of generalities and then also a lot of very like micro picks, right?
I'm kind of the same way, but I had a lot of like micro stuff, but I sort of tried to tie it together with like plot centric stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and I sort of did the same. And then I had one idea that I thought we could probably riff on for a while and that would probably yield some good stuff, but I'll save that for a little later.
Yeah, one of my one of my initial things I was thinking about, because I wanted to decide, okay, if we're gonna make this kid a teenager, and obviously it's gonna relate a lot to how we were as teenagers.
Yeah.
The first thing I need to decide is this the kind of kid who smokes, or is this the kind of kid who doesn't smoke? That was one of the first things, and it was hard for me. It was hard for me to be like okay, like just because he's a teenager, it doesn't automatically make him a rebel. Not everyone's gonna be like that. In fact, some kids are actually pretty like anti-rebellious, right?
Yeah,
so I was like, it's really tough to say as far as like teenagers go. But I was like, you know what? Well, related to me. So I was like, this kid is he listens to hardcore stuff, and he probably started smoking way before he was supposed to. So given that sort of set the whole line for how I'm going to treat this kid.
Great. And that's good too, because I've never smoked. So I can provide sort of the other side of that. Really, and all that is that it didn't factor into my stuff at all.
Oh, sure. No, but to me, like it was fun to make this kid angstier, which is definitely something that I feel like is you go through as coming of age, right?
Yeah, it's unavoidable, right? I mean, you pick teenager absolutely. And automatically it's angst. It's like over emotional, sort of disaffected and detached from the world around him, and very willing to lash out.
Right. It doesn't mean he has to be a douchebag about it, but it's still going to be there,
but
right?
He could.
Exactly. So being a kid who smokes when his mom's not looking, I figured that, and this is one of the first things, as we mentioned, is that you fight Silver, because Silver steals one of his professor's Pokemon, and then he ends up going to jail. And I don't think Ethan would narc. I don't think he would. If he's a teen, he'd see Silver doing some dirtbag shit, and he'd probably confront him about it. I'm all about the confronting. I don't know if he'd narc on him though. I think that's a little different.
See, and I thought that the rival was sort of like the perfect exemplar of like, because they turned all the rivals, specifically his teenage traits, up to 11. He's really rude and doesn't want to connect with anybody and only wants the best Pokemon and this and this and that and all these things that are just like prototypically teenager.
Yeah. Well, to be fair though, he also comes from a really crappy home life.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's actually, I mean, we definitely want to hit on that, but that's not technically in these games. That was a product of the redos in Gen 4.
Was that Heart Gold?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So, for anyone who cares, all three of you out there listening to this.
Yeah, right.
Well, go ahead.
Yeah. So Silver is actually the son of Team Rocket's leader, Giovanni.
Also the Viridian gym leader.
But no one cares about that because
no one even knows about that.
So he's got his traits sort of laid out for him already. You can definitely tell he's trying to follow in his father's footsteps for sure.
Yeah. And I mean, that's more of a fitting sort of retcon than anything, right? Because when they were writing this game script, they probably didn't. I mean, maybe they did and just forgot to put it in, but like it's never mentioned in these games.
Yeah, but I'm glad
it makes a lot of sense.
And I forgot how essential to the plot Team Rocket was in this game. I sort of don't remember them until I played again, and I was like, oh, that's right, they are a huge part of this.
There were a few things that I misremembered. They definitely are a huge part of the game, and the response to that on the hero side is that Lance, the champion from the first set of games, comes up and tries, he helps you fight them.
Yeah.
That being said,
I was gonna say, is Lance? I thought Lance was started in gold. He's not in red and blue, is he?
Sorry, he's not the champion in red and blue. He's the fourth member of the Elite Four in red and blue.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But I remember that being a little more pervasive and sort of being paced throughout the game. But in my 5 gyms, and actually my character is standing right in front of the 6th gym as we speak. I didn't really, there's no rocket encounters other than there's Slowpoke Well in Azalea Town, but there's 3 guys and it takes you 15 minutes. It's not really like a huge plot point.
Sure.
Whereas I remember you have to fight them and you have to take them this generator where there's these 3 electrodes on each side and you and Lance are sort of tandeming it.
Yeah.
I remember the Lake of Rage, which might be that same set piece. I just remember it being so much more in your face, and maybe that was just because I blew through it as a kid, right?
Well, I mean, maybe because the big things are there's the Slowpoke Well, there's the Lake of Rage, and then there's the radio tower in Goldenrod, I believe.
Yep.
And those are the big encounters with them. And I mean, I guess you could say they're not. So the big thing is, as far as these games go, or any Pokemon games goes, the plot is there for flavor, right? So even saying they're a big part of the plot doesn't necessarily mean they're a big part of the game.
No, that's actually a very salient point, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, because I mean, really, all you want to do in this game is catch, train, and battle Pokemon, and that just doesn't make for an exciting column in the on IGN. When they're reviewing the game, right?
Yeah, no, so the plot is just there. The plot is like seasoning. The gameplay is the main meat of your entree, but the plot is just sort of there to help tie everything together, just add a little sprinkling of flavor to make it just that much better.
Which I think is
give
good,
you sort of
honestly.
A purpose and reasoning. Yeah, no, I agree. I think
it doesn't overassert itself, right? It doesn't water down the core experience by trying to make you care about stuff that you don't necessarily care about. I mean, and there's even rewards for everything that you do that's plot related. So even if you don't care about the narrative, you're at least getting a sweet TM or, a rare Pokemon or something.
Yeah, no. And speaking of not caring, that was another thing I was thinking about is how apathetic is this teen going to be?
Yeah.
I was thinking this is probably a kid though, who I would feel in this world, there's never a real reason to be wholly apathetic, right? Without turning the game against itself, because I could make it so that this kid is just a complete asshole and maybe ends up joining the villainous team or whatever.
And I was actually
at that point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but at that point, it's not a Pokemon game. The whole idea is that Pokemon game, you fight, the bad guys and you save the day and you be the best. That's kind of all there is to it, right? So I felt as fun as it would be to be oh yeah, maybe you join Team Rocket. At that point, it starts to lose that. It starts to lose any recognizability.
I have to disagree.
Yeah,
and
do you really want this kid to join Team Rocket?
No, but I think we could explore the idea. And the reason for that is that was one of my first points, and I literally wrote it as this little asshole would probably try to join Team Rocket, right?
I mean it's not an 80s kid though. This isn't in the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie.
Dad?
The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle movie where he's you got any cigarettes? And they're yeah, menthol or regular. And they're whoa, and everyone wanted to join the Shredder and be an evil ninja because their pad was dope. You had kids skateboarding and people playing arcade games. That's an 80s mindset, right?
Sewage.
Yeah, exactly.
But they get lots of pizza.
Everyone wanted to beat up the Turtles because the Foot Clan was radical. We're not doing that. And then And then you see Shredder kick some butt, and you're like, yeah, you're cool. I'll be on your side. Like, no. That's an 80s mindset. I think we're kind of out of that with Pokemon. With Pokemon, this is an era where it's like, yeah, like I don't mind like being a punk, but at the same time, like I'm not gonna be an asshole about it, right? Like it was a whole different kind of era for humanity then.
Well, how about this though? Like, just bear with me for a minute here. Like, if we apply the modern lens that I was talking about with the Poke Gear to Team Rocket, like, really bear with me here. Like, what if Team Rocket was like, like a YouTube video like studio, right?
Oh my
and everything
Lord.
that it was like just a prank, bro.
Okay,
you're telling me that your little teenage shithead wouldn't want to join them? But
I mean,
to get a little more like critical and like, you know, substantial about it, like really think about how little changes, right? Like, you can still, like, Team Rocket still wants to take down the gym leaders, albeit maybe it's a little more sinister. Like, there could be a case made for, like, yeah, you're our field agent. You're going to go beat all the gym leaders and make them look ridiculous in the face of Team Rocket, right? Like, you can still go around and fight other trainers, except maybe, like, you get their Pokemon afterward, right? Like, you probably wouldn't help the Ampharos at the lighthouse and give it medicine, but...
Okay,
like...
so here's where I have to stop that right here now. As much as I love to yes and, I cannot be a person who plays a game that promotes like abuse of these cute critters. I just can't do it. I can't be like, oh, awesome, you defeated that gym leader and you stole that kid's lunch money. Now go and cut off all the tails of these beautiful little creatures and give us those tails. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not cutting off Slowpoke tails for your sick gains. Who are you? Get out of here. I'm not doing that. That's not fun for me. I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, I need you to whip and electrocute all these Pokemon while we tried to capture them. Like, I don't want to do that. I'm not like, that's just not fun. That's not the kind of teenager I am. The kind of teenager I am is the one that pushes kids over for being weak and then also stick it to the man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you gotta, I feel like there's that mentality of you can't boss me around.
Yeah.
That I feel like that's very important to why like this kid would not join Team Rocket at all.
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
no, that's
like
fair.
yeah, sure. Like maybe they're being snarky. Maybe like Professor Elm's like, yeah, you got to do this, and he's like, whatever, man, suck it, and skateboards away or whatever. Sure, that's totally a thing that could happen. But
grind.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like he'd also do that to Team Rocket. Team Rocket would be like, yeah, like we can drink and smoke and do whatever, and like no one bosses us around. And then you'd still be like, yeah, suck it, man, and skateboard away. Because
so the bike would be a skateboard. Can we just make that change? Right. You wouldn't get a bike from Goldenrod, you'd get a skateboard.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Hold on. Sorry. I'm getting excited.
So
that's definitely it. No more bike, definite skateboard.
What do you get if you like pull off like a sick vert? I know nothing about skateboarding. I feel
like you probably like if you do like cool moves and stuff, people throw money at you. That's how that would work.
Okay, or maybe like your Pokemon are so impressed that they gain like a little extra experience or something.
Oh yeah, because this is where they added friendship? Did they add friendship to this one? Yeah. So yeah, like if you're doing sick moves and stuff, like you don't have to worry about having a certain badge because your Charizard, just because you don't have a certain badge doesn't mean your Charizard's not gonna deal with you. If you're shredding, if you're pulling off sick nasty moves, that Charizard's gonna be like, yeah, this kid's got it. And he's going to follow your moves anyway.
Right.
That's how that's going to be. I am so happy about that. That is awesome.
Yes, I love it.
This is a kid who skateboards only with a helmet. Knee pads, elbow pads, don't even need it. Only the helmet.
Ooh, that's rebellious. So that actually leads really nicely into just another one of the little like micro points that I had, which was like one of the weird sort of not themes, but like through lines in this game is that like there are police officers who are just regular during the day, but if you approach them at night, they'll fight you because they think you're like up to no good. That. But I'm thinking if you're like a shitty little teenager on a skateboard, they'll fight you during the day. Like I was going to say that before the skateboard idea because teens are shady. I'm so sorry, teenagers listening to this. We don't dislike you. We were shitty teenagers too. Yeah, exactly.
Jeez. Jeez.
But
no, like so, like you could be like skateboarding in like say like you're in Goldenrod, right? Like and you're skateboarding by the mall, and then a rent-a-cop comes up. He's like, "Don't do that again," and then you do it again, and then he starts fighting you. Oh, I'd love that. That would be so great. I love it. that is
we just blew the lid off this whole thing.
I did. That is so, I want screw catching Pokemon. Let's just turn it to Tony Hawk for the Game Boy.
There was that, and it was terrible.
Oh, I know.
Be careful what you wish for.
Oh gosh, but what? Oh, but that would be so cool because like we could bring in elements of Pokemon Yellow, right? So where like you had your well, even in Gold and Silver, like when you used the Pokemon to either fly or do whatever, there was always that little shadow. So like, who says you even have to do like a skateboard? Like maybe you've got a Squirtle and you're like soaping on its shell. Remember soap shoes?
Yeah, I was gonna bring those up. Duh. We're talking about the early 2000s and teenagers.
Of course, listening to Avril Lavigne while soaping on the sidewalk.
There's an experience nobody has ever had.
Oh my god!
I'm just saying, I don't think the types of people who had soap shoes listen to Avril Lavigne. Or maybe they did. Maybe they were way ahead of their times.
Okay, fine. Green Day. How does that sound? I'm pretty sure that's like the same thing.
I'm thinking like Sum 41.
If you listen to Green Day, Sum 41. And Sum 41, Green Day, it's the same. It's all the same.
I think Sum 41 is the midpoint between Green Day and Avril Lavigne. At least like chronologically.
That is some deep lore for the universe we're spending.
We're really dating ourselves. Hey, this all happened 20 years after this crap we're talking about.
It all comes back. Life circles around. Okay, so...
Well, sorry. So one thing I did want to just sort of put a bow on the like not joining Team Rocket. I think the other natural extension is just the rival, right? Like you and him probably get along a little better. And just to touch on him, because another thing that relates to Team Rocket, is there's a lot of dialogue that comes out of him. Like, I'm going to beat Team Rocket. They're weak and I hate them and they like suck. And like for definitely not altruistic reasons, more like selfish and like, I'm
going
to prove yourself. Yeah. But when you consider the fact that he's like Giovanni's son, like it's such a teen thing, man. It just becomes like,
No,
you're not my dad.
Yeah, exactly. Like you got this kid being like, man, I wish my dad was rich and awesome so that I could get things, and he's just over there in the corner like, what do you know?
Yeah, right.
I got college paid off for me, but what do you know? My dad never talks to me.
No such thing as a free lunch, right?
No such thing as a free lunch herd. Oh my goodness. Wow. Yeah. Now that you bring that up though, you're absolutely right. He's like the epitome of like teenage angst.
Yeah. It's great.
Like it's full on rebellion. That's awesome. And yeah, so would you just make this easy and just say like, oh yeah, you just play Silver. That's the game.
Okay. No, that's legit. Like why make it harder for ourselves? Why reinvent the wheel?
Right.
So you would if you're a teenager, you probably take on the role of Silver. Because again, like and that does go back to my original point, which maybe doesn't apply as well to Team Rocket, but certainly to Silver. Sure. Like he's gonna go through the same beats. He's gonna fight all the same gym leaders. He's going to try and take down Team Rocket. He's just going to be a little edgier about it.
Yeah, he's an edgelord for sure.
Yeah, another quick aside to just sort of heap unneeded praise on this game. Like, as much as the first generation felt so dated and like rough, like it was, I was, when we played Banjo-Kazooie, it showed its, like there were some cracks in the paint, right?
Okay,
it definitely showed its age a little bit, and there were certainly things that I didn't remember being as much of a pain as they were.
Sure.
I really didn't have that with this game at all. And I was looking for it because I didn't want to be that guy like, this game's so good and there's nothing wrong with it. Clearly that's not true.
The biggest problem I have, and to me it's not so much it is a dated thing, but I don't feel like it's a negative thing. It's that I feel like old RPGs are all dated basically because they're grind fests. To me this game runs smoother than I remember. When I remember being a kid, and I remember certain gyms being really hard because I would go in way under leveled.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of this, and it's not just this game, but just RPGs of the era, where I literally will just play it and like I'll play it with one hand and read a book.
That's what I did with this game.
Yeah, exactly. You do that. To me,
to an extent.
That's not good. Right, to an extent. That's not good gameplay, though. I acknowledge that's a type of game. Yeah. And I acknowledge that's just the way that is. I see that as a form of being dated. I feel like games nowadays kind of have sort of a better grasp of like, oh yeah, like it's not created to waste your time,
well,
so to speak.
I will say, I definitely see where you're coming from. To this game specifically, I was at least engaged enough to pay attention while I was only using one hand, but I had like a drink in my other hand.
Not. I literally would just circle around in certain like fields and stuff, and granted too, like if I were playing less casually, it'd be a different story, because like when you get into like with Pokemon, you can get into like IVs and EVs and all that junk.
Oh yeah, well, I didn't go like that into.
No, me neither. But I'm saying like at that point, like you have to worry about which Pokemon is fighting what Pokemon, all this other stuff. There's definitely a less casual aspect to this game where you can play it and you have to pay attention, and I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But from a very general point of view of just playing games. I don't think the point of playing a video game should be to sort of ignore your video game, right? Like,
no,
I
of course
should be
not.
invested and focused on it. And granted, I probably didn't have to grind as much as I did. That is definitely a part of my my psyche as well. You know, I'm just the kind of person who's like, oh, like their Pokemon's level 20, so mine will be 25, just to make sure that I'm going to win regardless.
I'm so glad we started early. Like every point that's being made, I have something to say about.
Oh yeah, so that's just sort of my thing.
Yeah, I just want to wrap up that last point. Like my counterpoint to, I guess, like the this era RPG point that you made. Yeah. So like to give some background, when I got my first Android phone, it had a slide out keyboard.
Sure.
And that's not really key to the story, but it's just anyway.
Just wanted to
I put a Super Nintendo emulator on it, and I quickly found that you can't play something like Donkey Kong Country on a smartphone, no matter how much you want it, which I did, because let's just get it out there in episode 3. Donkey Kong Country 2 is my favorite game ever. But so I really had to pick and choose what types of games I thought I could get away with playing on like a limited, like crappy interface.
Right.
Earthbound ended up being the winner, head and shoulders above the rest.
Interesting.
And Earthbound, very well, you could play that game with one hand, unless you're really into like dodging the encounters in the world or something.
Oh, sure.
But I think Earthbound is not a disengage and read a book type of game. So I think that that whatever Pokemon does wrong in that regard, like, could have been done right. Maybe it was because it was actually a handheld game, or technical limitations, right? I mean, it could be any number of things.
I just think it was just the designers just didn't come up with it, right? It's as simple as that. And that's a good point. Why I think a game like Earthbound or Mother 2 is shut up.
That's fair. No, I you know what? I call it Final Fantasy VI, and I will fight anyone who argues otherwise. So you are perfectly welcome to call Earthbound Mother 2.
Yeah, so I feel like that game to me is timeless, and it's timeless because of the polish that went into it that hasn't sort of been fixed. It hasn't been fixed because it's not broken, if that makes sense. That game definitely does have it's grindy moments, but I mean, like when you beat a boss, every quote unquote random encounter goes away. Like they run away from you. Mm-hmm. Or even if you're at a certain level, they'll run away from you. Or they're insta fights. Yeah. There's things in that game that sort of remove kind of the problem I have with those early RPGs, which they make it go faster, which granted, it's not like we're all, ADD prone where we need to be, I can't wait. I don't have the patience. I need this to finish now. Like, but in a game that's all about grinding, like, your patience can be tried. And I feel like the Pokemon games, just because they're a product at the time and no one really thought about it, because at the time it wasn't broken. Right. At the time that was just gaming, right? But yeah, I'm not going to say that we didn't find better alternatives for it in the future, because I feel like we did.
Sure.
Whereas games like Mother 2, we really haven't, because it did it well. Like it has that proper pacing, and then it's also quirky enough to be super engaging all the time. If we're versing the two, that's sort of my opinion on it, I suppose.
No, that's fair. And just I want to harp on this point for 45 minutes, but
right.
I have to chalk some of that up just to your personal like grinding philosophy, because like I definitely went into the fighting gym, which is the 5th gym, like a little underleveled. Like I was fighting level 27 Pokemon, and my highest level was my Bayleaf, which was like level 23 5 or something, right?
Yeah,
None of
sure.
my Pokemon matched, and I think one of his Pokemon's like level 30. But through like canny use of like type advantages and stuff, like I had a Ghastly. So when I knew they were going to like kick the crap out of me with a big old fighting move, I stick my Ghastly out there.
Okay. Yeah. No, I get that.
And I never really hit a roadblock very hard. Like even like we were texting back and forth, like Whitney's Miltank, this infamous like brick wall for so many players. Like
she goes
beat
down
on the
sweet.
first try. Yeah.
Yeah.
AMA. And unrelated, I had a Pokemon that got Confusion and never hit itself once. AMA.
That's lucky.
Achievement
Wow.
unlocked.
For real. That's RNG Jesus was on your side. I can't
guess
say.
so. No, I mean I definitely 100% will cop to that.
Yeah. Well, that's again, you're right. That comes down to like play styles too. For example, I find Pokemon I really enjoy and I keep them on my team. I don't switch them out. The whole type advantage thing, to me, I get it, and it's playing by the rules. And when I'm fighting like when I'm fighting with like other people, oh yeah, I absolutely like. You throw out a fire type, I'll pull back my plant type and then throw out a ground type or whatever. Like that's sure, I get that. But when I'm playing the game itself, I like to challenge myself, and that's just something I don't like to do. I don't like to pull out a Pokemon just because I know it has a weakness or something like that. I like to try to push them.
I don't like that either. I think part of it is just my carryover from like the type of person I am and the type of kid I always was.
Oh
and,
yeah,
like,
there's all kinds of
I
stuff.
definitely like to have a varied team, so I don't, I'll if I have like 2 Pokemon where it's like, Geodude ended up in my party a lot, and then I think Sudowoodo ended up in there, and so it was like, oh, I can't have 2 rock types, so Sudowoodo was like my strength slave, but I definitely like this playthrough. There are some Pokemon that always make it on my team. Heracross, I don't know why. Heracross is my favorite Pokemon ever. So he had to end up on my team. I
want to get into it later, but you and I are on the same boat on that one.
But I kept
feel like
Togepi.
that's fun.
I kept Togepi just to like, because I'd never done that before. I left Geodude in. Geodude is a house. Well, yeah, I guess
Geodude is whatever, but Golem, I love Golem.
Yeah, well, I
Golem
never
was
had
great.
Golem because I didn't bother to trade.
Yeah, no, Golem, when I first played Pokemon Blue, I loved Golem. Or was it Red? I forget which one I had. I think I played them both.
Well, you better figure it out, because we can't continue unless you figure out which nearly identical game you had.
It was hard because I had one and my little brother had the other one,
Yeah.
and we would it was just a lot of times we just switched because we were too young to know what gaming was like. But anyway, I feel like we sort of tangented hard on that one, so let's go ahead and do a messy segue back to changing the game a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean, the only other and this isn't even like a huge change to the story that I had. So I have my notes broken up into big changes and little notes, and I have literally 4 big changes. Sure. Which again just goes to tell you like how much of this game is not about the narrative. I said that the egg that Elm gives you would never hatch, both because teenagers hate exercise or really moving in general, and also they hate responsibility.
Okay, so just because you brought up the egg, I'm gonna dovetail. I'm gonna use that because my thing is that so when you're a teenager, there's a lot of things on your mind, right? You're getting your future down. You're worried about that. You have all the anxiety of what am I gonna do with my life?
Oh, and boobs are just so good.
Exactly. A big part of that is finding a mate, right? Is trying to find that person who you're going to live your life with. And I totally feel like as a 17-year-old boy, there is without a doubt, he would use that egg to pick up chicks. He's just going to do it. That's just what he's going to do.
Okay. So like, I'm so responsible. Look at me.
Yep, exactly. Look at me.
I like this.
He's going to, and I only say that because when I was in high school, we had, I don't know if you remember, but the kids who took the health class had to, what was it?
Bag of flour.
Parenting? No, it wasn't even the bag of flour. They had real life. They had those stupid mechanical babies.
Oh my god, what was that class
Do you remember
called?
Those?
Yep.
I can't remember what it's called.
Either. It was something needlessly verbose.
Yes,
like me.
Like me. And. But I remember, I totally remember, like, there were definitely guys who were using the fact that, yeah, I'm in this class full of girls because I'm responsible and I wanna be a decent human being and care for people. And
no, you don't. You just want to bone down.
That's exactly what it was. But I mean, they would use it to their advantage. And I feel like this is, he's a teen. He's popping a boner every now and then. Every time he sees some cleavage, like he's gonna
or it's
try to get some.
Second hour biology class, and then they call on you.
It's just.
This is not from experience at all.
And then you have to go up, and it's just you wanna.
I don't want to explore that part.
Yeah.
I could, but I'm not
therapy
going to.
class for Cam.
No,
Did you ever see Monkey Bone?
No.
It's not a good movie, but that is one of
okay.
my favorite scenes in all of cinema. Is the beginning where like he's a cartoonist, right? So he animates this character that is basically a way for him to sort of vent the fact that he was a horny teenager. It's actually kind of funny.
Okay.
But yeah, so
I'll
like
get drunk and watch it sometime.
you totally should, but that's the essence of this character is that it's a personification of his boner as a teenager.
Oh my gosh, that's
it's
so funny.
Good. It's so good. But yeah, I mean, like, and the thing too is like Togepi is absolutely adorable, right? Like, and the anime they gave it to Misty because it's a woman, she's motherly, she can take care of it, right? Like whatever. It was the 90s. But I feel like it's cool that like okay, this kid has it and he's taking care of it. But as a teenager, like he's looking for a date. He needs someone to go with him to prom night, even though school doesn't exist. You know what I'm saying?
I wonder if like you play your cards right in this game, like instead of having like a Pikachu follow you, yellow version style, your girlfriend just follows you everywhere.
Your girlfriend follows you. That's I can't.
And then like
can't even.
If you go behind the terrain, like your character sprites are obscured. Like your mom calls you and she's like, "Get out of there! You're making bad choices."
Hand check.
Yeah, right. Leave room for Jesus. Or Arceus? Arceus?
Arceus. Well, yeah, how do you pronounce it? I always pronounce it Arceus.
Pokemon God.
Yeah. And then on top of that, too, since we're talking about the egg and stuff, like the whole reason he has the egg is for Professor Elm, correct? And I feel like that's another big thing, too, is like I mentioned, like the two big things when you're a teenager is worrying about your future and what you're going to do, and also like, trying to find that mate. So we've already got the mate part figured out. Like now it's like, what am I going to do for my life? Like he's worried about what college to get accepted at, especially if he's a Japanese kid, right? Like let's be real. Yeah. Johto and Kanto, they're both based off, Japanese origin. So like he's worried about his grades. He's worried about what school he's going to get accepted. Yeah. So I feel like maybe like him working for Elm is like an internship thing for a good college that he wants to go to.
Sure.
Like he's figuring out like this is, so like maybe there's like a grade system based on like how good you fill out your Pokedex or something.
Okay. And they kind of did that. I didn't again notice any of this in the more than half of the main game that I was able to play.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was about exactly half because I know like those last couple badges do take a while to get because there's a lot of other stuff interspersed in there.
Sure.
Regardless, I just remember in the first gen of games, like every so often you'd find an aid of Professor Oaks and he'd be like, oh, hey, if you have like 25 Pokemon, you get the item finder. Or if you have 50, you get like the experience, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't notice that in this game. Like, so that would have been a great way to like enforce like the grade system. And therefore, because that doesn't seem to be in this game, we can add it and take credit.
Right, there you go. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yes.
It was us. We did it.
So another note I had just like talking about Professor Elm is like at one point you go to his house and like you talk to his wife and I think his daughter. And like there's this computer in the corner and his like research is open on it and you're able to read it. And I'm just thinking if you're a teenager, like you're going to put the word penis all over that thing. And yes, esteemed colleagues, I have found in my research that penis Pokemon. Wait a second.
wait a sec. I didn't write this.
We can infer from the data that we've collected over 6,000 penis clinical trials. Oh my God, this kid!
Not again. Shakes his fist at Ethan.
But then that turned into like you use so many computers in this game. Like every single Poke Center, if people would go up to use the computer to go to Bill's PC and like withdraw their Pokemon, it'd be like Bill's PC, Jeff's PC, penis.
Every Pokemon you have is named Penis.
That was another thing I had. Like I think there would be a limited list of names you could give your Pokemon if you decided to nickname them at all. There would be two categories. And again, I really went like modern with it. So the two categories, the first one would be YouTuber names.
Oh gosh.
And the second one would just be like deplorable garbage, like just swear words and like slurs strung together because that's what teenagers talk about. Maybe not now.
I feel like that's still like a teenage boy thing.
Yeah.
Just being vulgar for the sake of vulgarity. It's still kind of a thing.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
It's whatever.
Yeah.
Well, what is it? 250,000 years of cognitive evolution, and here we are.
Need to make so many changes in my life.
Right? Does that just make you feel awful? Oh well. At least two gentlemen can sit here and speculate about something that never existed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if we
times.
talk about it, we're not guilty of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're making it a thing. We're contributing to society. Why not?
I like to think so. Don't take that away from me, Bam. Don't do it.
I also this is a super arbitrary and aesthetics thing, but I definitely feel like the red Gyarados would be the main mascot for this if our kid is a teenager.
Yes,
It
I
is
had
all
a
about-
few notes on that.
Yes, it would. Not only that, I also feel like there would be like a band that uses the red Gyarados as like their mascot,
Okay.
and it would be like a punk rock band.
You're hitting on so many of my points.
all right, lay
right.
it on me.
To start with, my note literally says, would sympathize with Lake of Rage, like a lot. And I guess by extension, the red Gyarados. Another interesting thing to note, like it's not related to any of the changes we're making, but like this game is kind of the only one that you have no incentive to put up with like a Magikarp or a Magikarp analog in your party for any amount of time because
There's
you
no
know you're going to
useless
get the red
Pokemon?
Gyarados. What's that?
I guess that's true. No, you're right.
Yeah, like there is Magikarp, but like why? You're going to get like a level like 45 or whatever it is, and it's probably not quite that high. You're going to get a well-leveled, like decent Gyarados essentially for no investment, right? It's part of the plot.
Yeah, and I can't think of a Pokemon that was like you get it and then it's worthless, and then I mean, kind of Larvitar a little bit, but not really. He's not completely worthless like Magikarp is.
Yeah. No, I mean Larvitar's fine. Pupitar, I don't know. I mean, Tyranitar is a beast, right? So,
Well, that's the thing, right? I'm just trying to think of something like where it starts off like absolutely worthless, and then it becomes like one of the strongest things in the game. Gyarados wasn't too OP. It was still pretty great to have.
I mean, I feel like Larvitar. Not that we need to spend a ton of time on Larvitar, but like it has Lance Rock Crown. That's not the greatest typing. Its stats are further down the page.
No, that's golden. little back. Was that backstage?
Inside baseball.
Really,
we're not a real podcast
curtain.
until we use the term inside baseball and also the term parting the kimono, which
Parting
I've just
the
done.
kimono.
So hey, we're good, man. Welcome to
We made
legitimacy.
it. We made it, kid. We're real.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean Larvitar's stats aren't that great either. So all right. But
I mean,
Tyranitar
I still don't
rocks.
think it's as Tyranitar is. I mean, it's like all of the pseudo legendaries. It's just
Yeah. We know what we're talking about. We're well versed in Pokemon. Pseudo
we're nerds.
legendaries.
It's cool.
What is it? Dragonite, Tyranitar, Metagross.
You jumped ahead, but yeah.
No, Metagross is Gen 3.
Oh, well, what? There's two. Because
Oh.
there's also Salamence.
Oh, that's right. And then I don't know after that.
Okay, so wait, we got Metagross. After that, it's the three-headed Hydreigon, I
Hydreigon.
believe.
Yeah. I didn't realize that
Yeah.
was Gen 4. I thought it was a little further ahead.
I think it's 5. I'm trying to think of 4. I can't think of 4. It's another dragon.
Maybe that is Gen 4, and then, let's see. Dragonite,
what is it?
Hydreigon, Metagross, Garchomp. That's Gen 4.
Garchomp, that's
Yep.
what it is. Yep. And then Goodra.
Yep. Gudra's cool.
And I love Goodra. Just because she has great defense. We are really nerd. We just
Yeah.
lost all 3 of our listeners talking about this.
Hello, true fans. Welcome to Bits, Chips, and Flip Scripts After Dark.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, let's get back on track here. That is to say, let's continue to be off track. Because again, like that, I don't have anything else that greatly affects the plot necessarily.
No, this episode is all over the place, but I'm loving everything we bring up,
Yeah.
so we'll just keep going with it. We're sorry if you have like tonal whiplash, but that's our podcast.
Yeah. Talking about Pokemon, how really uninteresting can it possibly be? So, I don't know. I like I said, all my things are little notes. Do we just want to like hop through some of those?
let's just go through them. I mean, we're like over an hour into this podcast. You might as well just start bullet pointing, right?
Yeah, right. I'm running out of time here. So the only words your character gets to say in canon are yes and no, because you get asked questions every now and then. I think that teenage protagonist would have still two options: grunt and different grunt.
And you got
Yeah, and these are inadvertently rocket themed, which sort of falls apart after our whole discussion about that. But I thought it was a fun little Easter egg.
Oh, that's cute. That would have been cute if we would have been deplorable animal abusing human beings. But
what could have been?
What could have been? If only.
So I think that an old man trying to give you his phone number would cause your character to react unfavorably, which happens in the game.
Yeah, I feel like not to go back to it. Man, this is such a. I'm so sorry we're tangenting so hard. But anyway, to go back to like Goldenrod and the radio tower and stuff. Like once you get in
which
that radio
does happen
tower,
toward the end of the game, so this is still thematically appropriate.
All right, but I mean, once you get in that tower, he's pranking the entirety of Johto by putting some kind of terrible porn or something.
But just
via the radio tower. Oh, I mean, heck, that's what my older brother did at our high school.
Oh man,
I think it was it? Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Because you know how we had the there would be like the morning announcements or whatever.
But there's a video component to that. Like it's a radio station in the game.
Well, no, because back when my brother was in high school, it was just like the overhead soundtrack, right? The audio. They didn't have the TVs yet.
Gotcha.
That was for our generation. But yeah, they just looped. I don't know if it was him or if it was his friends, but somebody would just set porn audio on loop and just blared it through. They locked the door and just blared it through the school.
Oh man.
Yeah, and the only reason I remember that is because I took speech my senior year, and
it served you well.
Well, no, the teacher was the one who ran the announcements.
Oh, yeah.
And when I got in her class, and she was like, Mizuko, I know that name. And I was like, uh-oh.
Ooh.
And she was not a fan. I mean, she loved that whole situation. She thought it was super funny because she was a cool teacher. But I just remember her calling me out for that. Like, you're the brother of this kid. Like, uh-oh.
Well,
Yeah, what are you going to do about it?
Boys
will be boys.
Yeah. Well, the brother of that kid, the cousin of that kid, the friend of that kid, the consigliere of the crime family that kid came from.
Anywho.
Yeah, that's relatable. So, I think...
Yeah.
I think somehow you only believe as much as the game leads you to believe, right? So if your character's a teenager, the game really does want to go sort of above and beyond to make you sort of live that.
Oh yeah, of course.
I think there would have to be some sort of incentive for using cooler Pokemon or like cooler typed Pokemon.
Well, I'm only going to allow that because...
Well, but cool's kind of like that's a wide-reaching term, right? Cool means different things to different people.
I feel like cool and cute are generally the two, and depending on how are the two that define mainstream, right?
I won't name names, but mainstream, yeah. But I know for a fact that you and I both have a mutual friend that we went to high school with that be very into cool Pokemon over cute Pokemon.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's a fair statement.
And that could be like anachronistic, right? Because they were like goth was a big thing. I don't know if it still is. I'm very disconnected from youth.
I was gonna say that was such an old person thing.
Yeah,
just like I remember back when we had goths. Like that's been a thing for
maybe
like,
that's
ever,
still
and
a thing,
will always
and maybe
be.
that's like old man talking about goths, whatever. I don't know. But...
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, goths developed into like what the scene crowd. and then just sort of went on from
yeah,
there.
and then there were the emos, which were somehow distinct from the scene. Let's get back to the script. Hey, Bam.
Hey, Cam.
What are the coolest Pokemon types?
Coolest Pokemon types? Obviously, Ghost. Ghost
Okay.
is the coolest Pokemon type.
I missed Ghost, and now I'm mad about it.
Oh.
And
All
then,
right.
of course,
what
that
did
leads
you
into...
have? Did you have Fire? Probably.
I had Fire, yeah.
Of
So
course.
in order, I wrote notes for each one. I have Dark, and then the note was Edgy. I have Steel, and the note was Metal. I have Fire, and the note was Burn Things. And then I had Rock, which my note was Teenage Cam would be all over that IRL. And then as a note to the note, as in if Pokemon was in real life. Because I was very much a rocker back in high school. So it was like, rock
absolutely.
Pokemon. I'm a dumb idiot 16-year-old, and those things are the same. So yeah.
Nope, I totally get it.
But Ghost
I can't
definitely-
believe you missed Ghost,
I
though.
know. Which, of course, like it leads perfectly into Poison, because like most of the Ghost-type Pokemon in the first two generations are secondary Poison.
Oh, yeah,
I
that's
think the
true.
second gen
Yep.
only added one. It was Mischievous, and that was like Ghost and nothing else. But it
Well,
was
that's
one Pokemon.
Yeah, definitely, and that's the thing, right? Like I'm huge into Ghost Pokemon. They're definitely my favorite, but I during this time of games, because there were basically no Ghost Pokemon, like it wasn't really a thing I ever considered.
Yeah.
Unless I only wanted to have like one or two Pokemon, right?
Sure.
Right? Was not down for that noise.
Yeah. That you wouldn't. I mean, even the Ghost Gym Leader, like I think it was all Ghastly family, which is like
It was
snore.
just, and then like maybe a Mischievous. I don't even think so.
Yeah, which is
I think he
another
just-
note I made. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, he only had like two Pokemon. And it's like, or four Pokemon of the same variety.
Yeah, he didn't. I mean, I fought him like a few days ago. He only had Ghastly family, which, as much as I understand why abilities are a thing from like third generation and onward.
Sure.
And the reason for that, summed up very succinctly, is that like Levitate is so necessary because the ground type is a real good.
Yes, and it still is to this day.
Yeah, well, in Gen 2, Levitate didn't exist, so ground type destroyed ghost types. It annihilated Magnemite and Magneton, which are steel and electric, which means they're quadruple weak to ground.
Right.
And they don't have Levitate in this generation, so they just disappear in the face of a good ground type move. So, you know, and like Levitate is in so many ways like the quintessential like good ability, and so in so many ways the quintessential like such a pigeonholed ability, right? Like, oh well, they float off the ground, so they're not allowed to do anything else meaningful.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, right?
mhm.
Like,
or they do get to do something meaningful, and that takes away somehow their ability to float, and like, you know, that's probably
Well, yeah, you gotta
emblematic of, like
balance
a
it,
deeper
right?
problem. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So, what are the coolest individual Pokemon? Would you say?
okay. Coolest Pokemon, obviously, so if we're talking Gen 2, it's
Gen
gonna
1
be
and Gen 2, I would say.
Gengar,
Yeah.
Tyranitar,
Duh.
Houndoom,
Yes.
and I feel like Charizard's pretty up there,
Yeah.
but I feel like he's kind of like a general cool. He's like a cool to 10-year-old kid. If we're talking like a teenager, it's probably gonna be like, that's tough.
Can I hit with you a few?
Yeah, go
Can I
for
hit
it.
you with some Sneasel?
Sneasel, I don't know if Sneasel's really cool.
Big
I
old
think
claws.
Sneasel's
Like,
kind of
sneaks
cuter than
around.
cool.
I suppose that's fair. Kabutops.
Kabutops is cool. Oh, of course, freaking Scyther.
Yeah.
Or
I had
Scizor.
Scizor,
Either-
yeah, just because it's
either
more,
of those
yeah.
two. Either of those two, super cool.
Skarmory?
Skarmory's kind of doofy looking. I don't know about cool.
Uh,
You see its face? Look at its face.
its face is doofy, but it's like sleek and armored and pointy and also a pretty good Pokemon.
It's a great Pokemon.
I love
I'm not-
Skarmory.
Was that it? Is that all you had?
No, I had a few more. So, we actually talked about how stupid this Pokemon is, but like playing off of the fact that like teenagers have, let's say, altered priorities. I put Quillfish because it's covered in spikes.
Oh my gosh.
I knew
don't think-
so many people
Okay.
we went to high school with that wore spikes for spikes' sake. Like no,
No,
one wears functional
I totally
spikes.
understand that. I totally understand. My thing, actually, I was gonna say Grimer.
Okay,
and not because
wait. So
it's-
Skarmory's
wait, hold on.
doofy, but Grimer's not.
Okay, well, here's the thing, though, and it's the same reason you said Quillfish, is there's a hint of irony to it, right?
Okay.
On top of it, it's poison, and it destroys stuff, so that makes it cool. But it's doofy, but it's doofy, so there's that irony there, because let's face it, teenagers are
Love
satirical
irony.
as all hell. So Am I wrong? It's all about the sass.
No,
right?
you're absolutely right.
Yeah, enjoying things genuinely,
Yeah.
enjoying things ironically.
And even
there you go.
Even from that perspective, that the least popular Pokemon among every other demographic would be one of the more popular among teenagers. Something like Dunsparce or Shuckle or
Dunsparce,
Lickitung, definitely would have an ironic cachet among the teens.
I'm going to say this right now. I know for a fact, I know a lot of people, I'm going to say younger, because they're not quite as old as you and I, but they're past high school-ish, just around there. Mm-hmm. Love Dunsparce. Dunsparce and Fortress.
See, Dunsparce never done nothing wrong in my mind. Fortress bothers me. I don't know why.
It's just, but I mean, they're Pokemon that I never would have batted an eye at, or I feel like mainstream probably wouldn't either.
Yeah.
But there's just that hint of, oh, look, it's useless and cute, but at the same time, yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's an appreciation for that which isn't appreciated, right?
Sure.
It is the postmodernism of Pokemon.
Yeah. Thank you, the 60s.
Yeah.
Andy Warhol. Stanley
Anyway.
Kubrick? Oh, no, more
Stanley
David Lynch.
Kubrick?
Sorry.
David Lynch, for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think Stanley Kubrick really fits in that role, but...
I think maybe he did, in his time. Now, it's I hate to bring up, another, the same trope, but the Seinfeld is unfunny, right?
Yeah.
I think Stanley Kubrick was more of a visionary, and now because he made so many huge influential films, he's not maybe seen that way as much.
Oh, I don't know. I think he's still seen as influential. I just don't.
No, definitely influential, but
I just wouldn't see him as something that's as abstract as, say, David Lynch.
Sure. That's fair. All right, I got a few that don't lend themselves to conversation, but I think we can rapid fire through, and then if you have any, you can do the same.
Yeah, we could just wrap up here. Yeah, after you.
So, kind of the first conversation you have outside of your mom and Professor Elm is a woman who goes, "Your Pokegear is impressive. Did your mom get it for you?" And your character would clearly be like, "No, ew, gross. My mom, what? Ew.
No, I do my own shopping.
Yeah. The burn status would happen way more frequently. Teenagers are so cruel.
Jeez, I can't believe it. Really?
To sort of go off the cool Pokemon, lame Pokemon split, New Bark High probably has a mascot, right? And I don't know what it is, but whatever it is, any Pokemon that would beat that Pokemon in a fight would be off limits. You're not allowed to have it. And on a related note, any Pokemon that represented Cherry Grove East would be strictly off the table.
Oh, jeez.
The Zephyr badge would be diegetically called the Fart badge. You just know there would be a dark cave challenge of some sort.
Wait. All right. Okay.
Did you have something for that?
Nope. We're good. Okay. I think it speaks for itself.
Yeah. So this one touches more on the main game, but I think fits so well in our version. When you save the game and you sort of turn it off, you come back however long in real life later, but your character is still standing there, and time has still flowed between the time you stopped and the time you started back up. So it basically implies in a lot of ways that your character just stood there with a vacant look on their face for 16, 24 hours. Yeah. Which, could look a little hypocritical in the face of me saying so much about abstractions, but I do think it's more fun and more fitting for a teenager, to be able to turn their brain off for 16 hours and stand in the same spot doing nothing.
I feel like that's, I don't know, maybe that's...
Again, from experience, not trying to shit on teenagers.
It makes me think of Beavis Butthead type.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's, yeah, anyway. So I think that instead of using you use a watering can, and the water makes Sudowoodo jump up and attack you. But teenage protagonists would pee on Sudowoodo instead of using the watering can.
Fair. Totally fair.
Or at least a lot of the teenage protagonists I knew back in high school. Whoa.
Nope. What? Nope, that's real.
Okay. I'm gonna get a little. Jasmine is a piece. I don't care who you are. I had such a crush on her when I was younger.
All right. I'll leave this one for you. You can have that one.
Yeah.
So you're gonna show her your Togepi egg and be like, "Hey."
Yeah. Look how responsible I am. That was another thing. Togepi, because Togepi doesn't learn any good moves, I made Togepi my headbutt slave, and the thought of Togepi headbutting a tree and a Heracross falling out is freaking hysterical to me.
I kind of love that. I absolutely love that. 100%.
Yeah. So I just had a few other points, but they were not related to my change, just some of the fun things that happened while I was playing, and I didn't know if you had any of those that you wanted to share.
No, I think I'm pretty spent for this one.
Gotcha.
So far.
Okay,
yep.
So just a few things.
Yeah.
Togepi learns Metronome, and again, I was trying to put some time into Togepi. I got Hyper Beam from the first Metronome I ever used, and it missed, and it made me very sad.
Oh, no!
The second Metronome I ever used, which was the next turn, was Explosion.
Oh, wow!
So my poor Togepi exploded.
Oh, R.I.P. Togepi.
Yeah. Togepi, my Togepi was named Wanda. I gave all my Pokemon fun names, which is another thing we have to talk about before we end here.
Yes, I do want to get into Pokemon names.
But of course, I was really, really into the game, and I think it was a high-stakes battle. I was probably fighting a gym leader, and Wanda, my Togepi, fell asleep. So I wrote, actual quote from me, "Wake up, fucking Wanda!"
Dude, that's... I hate that. Dude, sleep is the worst.
Sleep is bad. Confusion is bad. The other Pokemon using Double Team or Sand Attack is bad. It's all just very bad. All right. So what did we both gave our teams fun, interesting names because I personally think leaving them as the defaults are boring.
Okay, so here's my thing. We're both about naming Pokemon. I wanted to know which step you went into because I feel like people always go to two steps.
Okay.
They either do things they think are awesome, or they do things that are absolutely for jokes. Right? Like it's all about the funnies, right? So I was wondering which one did you go to? Now, obviously, Wanda fits with the joking category.
Yeah, mostly jokes. I had a few that like. It was a very stream of consciousness thing, right? Like I certainly didn't plan any out, but like in my party right now is my Hoot named Ezekiel, because when I caught him, my wife and I were singing Amish Paradise.
Oh, nice. Very nice. Oh, that's adorable. I love it.
But there were a few where I was like, this Pokemon is cool, and I want to make sure they have a cool name. Yeah, so it's kind of a mix, I guess.
That's normally the route I go for. I stick to all of the old names that I used to name my Pokemon.
Nice.
Just because it's
carrying on their memory.
Yeah, kind of. Because like I Gold was like one of my favorite, and although I don't no longer have the cartridge I had when I was a kid, like I still remember what I named them. And of course, to me though, being like what were we 7, 9-ish, somewhere around there, maybe like
I think like 10.
No,
at the
we're
top
like 11.
end.
Maybe. Yeah, it was early 2000s, right? So whatever. But being that age at the time, though, there was definitely some names that I totally thought were cool that are super cringeworthy now. But I still use them because I want to remember that.
Yeah. My last point before we do all the names, you say you don't have your original cartridge. I do. I went to go play this about like 3-4 years ago. It was right after when I tried playing Red version. I decided to transition to Silver version. And the thing about Silver version and Gold version and Crystal is that they have like the time feature, which means they have a watch battery that after a while dies and corrupts all your save data. Which after 10 years I was okay with, but I still wanted to play the game. So I actually looked up how to open the cartridge, replace the watch battery, and like tape it in there basically. So for all you at home, look it up on YouTube. It's really easy. I'm an idiot, and I did it. So yeah, original cartridge, obviously with a new battery, but I was super proud of that. It made me feel very handy. And then I did the same thing with my wife's gold cartridge, and we actually played for a while. Again, this was a few years ago. She didn't play this time.
Right.
Yeah. So without further ado, what are your names?
All right. So I had a Sandslash, which I always named Sahara.
Okay.
I always named Sandslash Sahara. I had a Miltank, which was the beef.
The beef.
The beef. That's always my Miltank. It's always the beef.
That answers one question.
And then I had Kadabra, which is the most emo thing of the 2000 era, but at midnight. I always name my Kadabra Midnight. Zatu, which I always just keep as Zatu because I liked that name. Magmar, which is Boober.
Where the hell did you get a Magmar? Where'd you get a Magmar from?
I would always have. I didn't because I only got to the third gym in this one.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't. But my old team, I always had Magmar. Magmar I had in red. Magmar I had in gold, and then Magmar I had in
X and Y.
What was it? Black and White 2, I think
okay.
is where I got him from. But yeah, I would just transfer it along. The Magmar and the Sandslash were always from my first one.
OG.
Yep, they were always the OG.
Gotcha.
And then Heracross was the other favorite one. But I never really the name always switched up. I never really kept anything specific to that one. I just really like Heracross because it's such an awesome Pokemon.
Yeah, Heracross is again. I hate insects in real life. Hate them. Hate them.
I love beetles and moths.
No, thank you.
I love all animals. I can't say I don't.
So many of my favorite Pokemon are bug Pokemon for some unknowable reason.
Really?
Yeah. Was that it? Is that 6?
That's 6.
Oh,
yep.
Okay. I don't have any like long-standing traditions, except that I always name my Pokemon, and the reason for that is that like the name they come with is their species name. So it would be like owning a rabbit named Rabbit, like a fish named Fish, right?
Right.
Or a fish. Oh my God, a fish called Wanda.
Stop that.
That's a long stretch from like my Pokemon name and an animal that I just mentioned, but it works, I think. Anyway, I had Wanda the Togepi, which I like. I've never wanted to see a Togetic so much as like wanting her to evolve because apparently like Togetic like gets a huge boost in a lot of the stats.
No, Togetic is awesome.
I had my Heracross named Colossus.
Colossus.
Which
I did have
was a snap decision.
One named Hercules at one point. I do remember that.
I wanted something like powerful, and I probably could have done a better job if I had thought about it more. But
sure.
I have now a Graveler. I caught it as a Geodude, whose name is Gumpy.
Why? Why?
That's a Bim Bam reference.
Oh my goodness.
Who was your starter?
Starter? It's always Cyndaquil.
Oh, mine's always Chikorita. So my Bayleaf is... I'm just a grass starter purist. Bring on the haters.
Sure. I'm always with whatever one looks cutest to me. So.
I named my Chikorita, which evolved into a Bayleaf, is named Torvald.
What? You want to explain that one?
I don't have one. I mean, I'm a programmer, so I'm sure some amount of it was attributable to Linus Torvalds, the guy who made the Linux operating system.
Okay.
So that might have been like the subconscious reason. I just thought it was a funny name for Chikorita. And then in addition to Ezekiel, who I mentioned earlier, I have my still a Ghastly, named Deckard, after Deckard Cain.
Deckard Cain.
Stay a while and listen.
Oh, not bad.
And then here in Spirit, I didn't get a chance to transfer her back. But the previous time I played, I caught a shiny Drowsy, which evolved into a Hypno, whose name is Douglas.
Douglas, the female Hypno.
Yeah, if I had had more time, she would have been here with me. But I just didn't have a chance to do it. So,
okay. So if you could pick 2 from Generation 2, what would be your favorite, you think?
Okay, well, I'm not going to count.
Not even in your party,
just is my favorite. So
Heracross?
I've already mentioned that. I'm going to pick 2 different ones. I think I already mentioned them. I think it's got to be Sneasel and Skarmory.
Sneasel's pretty great. I also like Sneasel's later
Weavile
evolution. Yeah, Weavile.
See, I mean, like, I'm neutral on Weavile. I don't have anything against it. I just, like, I thought Sneasel was fine
Yeah.
as a one like stage, and then they like, you know, they added all those extra evolutions later on, and I'm just like, I mean, like it was another like don't fix what ain't broken situation for me personally. But and then Skarmory is just cool. I don't know, like that's definitely a holdover from like me as a young person. Like, oh, it's bird made of metal, but it does help that like Smogon apparently thinks pretty highly of Skarmory from what I remember.
No, Skarmory is pretty great. Mine kind of going in the complete opposite direction of cool were the two that I had in my party, Miltank and Xatu. Definitely my favorite from Generation 2. I absolutely adore Miltank. I think Miltank is one of the cutest fucking Pokemon I've ever witnessed. I don't know why. It's just adorable. It's a fat cow that rolls. I can't not love that.
Yeah, I think the rolling is what, like, if it was just a fat cow that, like, did fat cow things... Because cows do not roll in real life.
No, they do not. And
the fact that like, awesome. Rollout is basically its signature move, which is weird, because it already has its signature move in Milk Drink. That's right. You know, the only Pokemon that learns that move is Miltank.
I guess Milk Drink is true. That's its signature for sure.
But it's not. Like, Rollout is, right? Like, that's execution versus concept, right?
Well, if you think about it, a lot of Pokemon from this generation had it because they introduced it, and because Donphan also has it, Miltank has it, Sandslash has it. Like, it's just it's a popular.
It's a TM even, so you can teach it to a lot of different Pokemon.
I feel like Milk Drink is definitely the Miltank signature. Although I usually equip it with Heal Bell as opposed to.
What does Heal Bell do? I got that on Metronome and I couldn't figure it out. Is it like Endure where it keeps you at one hit if you 1 hit point if you get killed?
I don't remember the like specifics, but does it cure? I think it acts as an antidote. I don't remember.
Okay, that would make sense.
I always preferred it to Milk Drink because Milk Drink only affected the Miltank.
Right. No, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, but and then Xatu, I was just a fan of because it's Native American, and I have a soft spot for all like Native American kind of aesthetics. Yeah.
No, I mean, Xatu, like, I think is a very clean, like, execution of a concept, right? Like, it's from the bottom up, it's a totem pole, but like, what if it was a bird? Like, there's birds on totem poles. Like, most totem poles have wings, so let's make it a bird Pokemon. Okay, but like that probably looks too mature, so let's make a pre-evolution and just like strip it down. It's just such a that's a good pick. It's such a clean execution of you know exactly what they're going for, and it seems like they really did a great job of delivering on that concept.
Well, I mean, it's similar to like Heracross, right? Like Heracross is, you know exactly what you're getting into it. It's obviously a bug type, but it's obviously like a strong. It's because the problem with bug types, especially like in this generation, is like they hadn't really. They're just you crushed them.
Yeah, like their identity was like, get them early, evolve them early, like middling move set, and like an affinity for like poisoning and stuff.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, I mean, Heracross, I mean, like, Scyther's kind of a break from that.
A little bit, but I mean...
is a little bit too, so maybe that's not completely accurate, but really, I mean, other than those two, like, the majority of bug Pokemon are, like, just throwaway.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I would use Scyther, and, like, Scyther was the one I used where I'd be, like, fighting the Elite Four, and it was always, like, the first to die. And, like, whereas, like, Heracross would carry my team, man, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Like, Heracross would just be, like, the forefront. Like, it could take whatever, and it could dish out even harder. It was great.
In so many ways, too. Like, Heracross is, like, the exact opposite of the first-gen ideal of a bug Pokemon, because they all, like, spike in power real early, whereas, like, my Heracross is level 21, and I had, like, I taught it Fury Cutter, remembering erroneously that was supposed to be a good move. And it is if you can set it up and like sweep their team. But like bug type moves suck so much, and it has such a low power to start with, that I was using like Horn Attack, which I caught it with at level 10. And it was still wrecking pretty hard, but it didn't, until you get something like Mega Horn and are able to get like the TM for Earthquake. Then it's like it's still good. Like its stats are very like good in a raw sense, but
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, I, like I said to you, like I just adored so much having an excuse to go back to this game. I don't know that I would have for another like several years had I not had a reason to do so. But like I can think of like 3 games that shaped me as like who I am. Like not even for like games, just like how I like perceive things in certain ways. Donkey Kong Country 2, my favorite game. World of Warcraft is the game I've spent the most time with. And then I think Pokemon Silver really takes the cake as sort of the most influential, the most formative game. The one that really just like burrowed in deep and never left. Silver specifically, but of course the generation as a whole. Sure. I had such a great time with this, and I could keep talking and talking about it. I don't know that anyone would want to listen. But,
it's great. I'm glad, like you said, we had an excuse to sort of just dig into this, because it's a great franchise. Like, this game aside, I just love Pokemon. Yeah, I love just the concept. I love the games. It's all fun. Like, I recently have been playing Pokemon Quest on my phone. Yeah, just because it's I don't know, there's something just super alluring about both the designs, just the ideas, the whole concept. Everything about this is a home run. And yeah, it's always fun when we get to do fun things. So maybe next week we'll do something terrible to remind everybody what it's like when we do terrible.
Which, I mean, we have yet to serve up hot and fresh on a platter, so
yeah,
it's definitely coming at some point.
Alrighty, next game is what is that? Get over it with
with Bennett Foddy.
Yeah,
a game with no narrative and one gameplay mechanic.
There is a deep narrative in that game. I don't know what you're talking about.
That will separate us, us as men from us as boys, if we're able to.
Us really as 12-year-old boys from us as 17-year-old angsty boys.
With red hair.
All right. With red hair. So for this episode, we're just going to kind of skip the quick hits. I feel like we've talked their ears off enough. But it's worth it to be able to rant and rave about such a just something that means a lot to both of us. I feel like
it's just good old fun. I mean, I definitely understand someone probably in the demographic that we spent so much time talking about would probably pick up this game and think it was dumb and like reductive and archaic and not worth the time. But again, like as like I always want to come to these things with like as much of an unbiased opinion as I can manage to muster, which was admittedly very hard for this game. But even so, I had a very hard time like finding things to dislike about it. Like even with the technical limitations and like, the text is blocky and every character has like 4 words of dialogue to say. I think, I don't know if it's the localization team or just the people who wrote the original script. Like they did such a good job of just working with what little they had and making it seem a little more natural. And it just worked, man. Lightning does strike twice, and it happens to be Pokemon Red and Blue, and then also Pokemon Gold and Silver.
Gold and Silver.
Which is to say nothing of the 20 years of fame and success they've had since then. So I got to play a newer one. The last time I played was Ruby and Sapphire, and that's why
I totally advise getting into X and Y. Yeah. It literally, to me, it is the Mario Odyssey of the Pokemon franchise.
Okay.
Like it
hard to ignore that.
I'm being 100% real. It took all the things you loved about the old stuff. It took a lot of the newer things and condensed them of the newer games that like I thought kind of convoluted it a little bit, but I totally understand why people like dig it. With seeing your Pokemon and having them like with actual 3D stuff. The story is good. It's not some world-ending bullshit. It's just like, they went back to the roots of, here is a villainous group that's just trying to do like minor villainous things, and you just got to deal with them.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day,
like in real life.
Yeah, just like in real life.
Like Congress. Hey, okay. Thanks for listening, folks. This has been your host. I'm Cam.
And I'm Bam.
And remember, the smallest act can make for the biggest changes. See ya. Thanks for listening.
See you guys. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. We hope you enjoyed it. If you have any suggestions, video games, or changes that we could make to them, go ahead and send those to bcandfs@gmail.com. Again, that is bcandfs@gmail.com. I want to give a special thanks to Malman for the use of his song Flowers. It's It's a very rad song. You can find even cooler music at his site, malmen.bandcamp.com. And again, that's malmen.bandcamp.com.